everybody, the family had a position, the government had a position. But the fact still remains that whether Edgar Chagwa Lungu came back into active politics, he considered himself a private citizen, he considered himself an opposition, politician, the fact still remains, State Council, that Edgar Chagwa Lungu was Zambia's 6th president and unfortunately our only last surviving former head of state. So when he dies, how should the country mourn him procedurally? Regards the family's wishes or regards his wishes?
Perhaps let me start from what I heard some people saying.
Well, in fact, as you answer, didn't people like President Mwanawasa have their wishes? Didn't people like KK or Sata have their wishes? Personal?
They did have their wishes. I'll come to that. But what I wanted to start off with is that I've heard people saying because he was president, the body belongs to the state. That is complete hogwash. There is no such thing. The state does not own any body of a person. And as to how the disposal of a body is done is up to the next of kin. Next of kin in this particular case is the widow and the children. Those are the next of kin. Yes, there is acknowledgement that this is like the Muma judgment in the Kenneth Kaunda case, that this person is a special person. But still, by being a special person doesn't mean that the rights of the family are taken away. So it means that, yes, let's give him a send-off which is a good send-off, which respects him. Part of respecting him is taking into account what his family wants. If you disregard what his family wants, you're not respecting him. Now, turning to the question of the Mwanawasa and the Kaunda wishes, because with Levy, he wanted to be buried at the farm. I believe he even put it in his will. With the late Kaunda, the family wanted variously. Some were saying in Chinsali, some were saying
next to his wife.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that. The state went and negotiated with them and convinced them. They didn't go there arrogantly to tell them, this is what you must do. They said, we understand and we feel your loss and we understand your desires, but also please take into consideration this. It was negotiated.
I'm happy that you use the word negotiating, but don't you think, State Council, that in all this again, there's been a lot of politics at play from your colleagues in the opposition, the Tonse Alliance and the PF, using this sad and untimely demise as a way to either gain politically or fight politically?
I think that...
using the name that these are the family wishes.
I think that the person who was speaking, who was Makebi Zulu, made it extremely clear. He was not speaking for Tonse, he was not speaking for PF, he was speaking for the family.
Yeah, but what about these announcements? Was it right, or is it right for the PF to also call and declare their own national mourning? Do they have those powers?
They obviously, it's not technically a national mourning, but if I lose somebody, there's nothing wrong with me saying I'm going to mourn for the 7 days and tell the people I'm going to mourn for 7 days.
Yeah, but they've been announcing and calling on people to say we're declaring and you should mourn him for 7 days.
I don't think that should even be an issue. If I tell my friends, and if I've got some loss, and say, look, I've lost a cousin or whatever I've lost. And then I say, I'm going to mourn for 7 days. Please mourn with me for 7 days. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that.
But
what I cannot do is say, because I'm mourning, put the flags down to half-mast. Yes, that I cannot do. But to say that mourn with me, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that. They need not apologize for that. And people should look at more substantive, important issues.
But I'm coming to your point where you said in all these past cases, there's been negotiation in that. We've never seen a situation where you sort of have two funerals, one at the Secretariat for the party, another at Belvedere for the state. And for me, this is the unfortunate thing, that we are further dividing a nation that really at this point in time needs to be united.
You're very, very right. The country very divided. But look at how the whole thing came about, the genesis of it. You have days going by without the state, which is claiming are the owners of the mourning, even making an official announcement. The first time the state talks about it, it's in the Facebook posting. That cannot be right. Then you have the head of state, 7 full days, he doesn't address the nation. If immediately that had happened...
Was he mandated to?
Well, you're talking about a sixth president, somebody whom now they're claiming they own. So they can't have it both ways. Because of that claim they have, they were obliged to, surely. Otherwise, what's the basis of their claim? Surely they were obliged to. There should have been immediately a declaration of national mourning. Then you wouldn't have had other people even saying they're declaring national mourning. The state should have taken control and responsibility from the word go.
Isn't it also
and they failed.
Isn't it also the moral obligation of both the family? Yes, they're in mourning. His party, like you said, to also compromise and take into consideration a win-win position in that, like you said, we're not dealing with just an ordinary person.
And the family did do that. In spite of, there was those unfortunate statements attributed to even the army. You know, you had a very toxic situation brought about. You know, I'm trying to put myself in that position which was there. Even when addressing the nation, as he did finally, to bring down the tensions, do it from the heart. Don't make it seem so mechanical. From the heart. Live and edited, not that, no, from the heart. If you really are, it's from the heart. You do not start off by saying, my condolences go to the bereaved family. That is cold. I say it's cold because imagine when President Biden was president, and let's say Barack Obama dies. President Biden would not go live and start saying, my condolences to the bereaved family. No. It would be, My condolences to Michelle, Sasha, and Madia. That would show that it's coming from the heart, not a cold.
But the truth of the matter, State Council, is that yes, there is tension. Finally, it's settled. There was tension. Have you played your part? And when I say have you played your part, I remember last week in one of my editorial writings, I was appealing to people, senior like yourselves, who've been there. You've been in the UPNU. Have you, the elders, played your part? Because this Edgar Lungu and Hakainde Hichilema feud goes way back before Edgar became president. This relationship now has gone into the grave, that the wishes should be that he should come nowhere near my body. So how do you speak from the heart when such sentiments have already been made, that you're not wanted anywhere near? And yet you're president. I think it's also a very tough position to be in.
It is a tough position to be in, but if you are up to the job, you will be able to deal with the tough situation that you're in. You will be mindful to ensure that you do de-escalate the tension.
How?
You can be doing so by, for example, if you've got one of your ministers, like Mutambo started saying that we're just waiting for this burial to be finished and then we're going to sort out the PF. Mwali Teta and his statements, those threats from the army, even the unfortunate statement by the vice president saying that this is treason, saying that you want to think.